Hey everyone, welcome back to the Keep Watching podcast, where we decide what to watch so you don't have to. I'm James.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we're going to be talking about Money Heist. Sarah, are you looking forward to talking about Money Heist?
Of course I am.
Okay.
I'm always pumped.
Okay,
At
good.
least for this podcast. I enjoy it.
Good. What's going on with you, Sarah?
This weekend I went to see John Mulaney, who, if you're unfamiliar, is a stand-up comic. And
Yes.
it was really good. But I have some beef. Not with John Mulaney, but with everyone who went to the show. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people who went to the show. I'm about to sound, I think, real old and unrelatable, probably.
Okay.
But so, I don't know. I've spent the last 2 years inside wearing pajamas, so I got a little dressed up. It's fine. Nobody else got even remotely a little dressed up. There was a lot of sweatpants, and this is for a comedian who always wears a suit, so I was a little bummed. Disappointed in the world in general, but that's
okay.
fine. The real thing that got to me was how many people were really fucking late to this show. Like, when we went to see Monster X, like, it was approaching showtime start, and I was like, where are the people? And then suddenly everybody got in, like, right in the last 5 minutes. Well, this show was supposed to start at 7. It didn't actually start until 7:30, and I think I was in the 8th row, and, like, most of the seats in front of me were empty at this time. And, like, right when the lights went out, when it was about to start, there were, like, a family of 4 trying to get in my row because I was on the aisle. And I'm like, well, it's dark. I can't see anything to let you in now. So there's all this shuffling around. He had another comic whose name escapes me at the moment. I'm sorry, other comic. I did not get to pay attention to that guy talk too much because it was constant shuffling of people trying to get into seats in front of me. And that guy talked for another 20 minutes maybe, and still not everyone had showed up. Like, we are 50 minutes after the time this show is supposed to start, and people are still walking in. People were walking in with drinks from the bar, so they weren't even, like, in a rush. And I was just very annoyed. Bitter for a while, and then finally the shuffling stopped and I was able to enjoy the show. But get it together, people. Show up on time for shows.
I've never been to a comedy act before, so I'm not sure what the etiquette is or the vibe of it is supposed to be.
I just feel like people should show up on time for a show of any kind. Like, it just seems terribly rude.
Yeah.
Like, it said it was starting at 7. It started at 7:30, and people still. I'm like, get your shit together. I was so livid. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
This coming off of your story last week of old ladies complaining about people showing up late.
I know. But their late was early, and this late was an hour fucking late for a show.
Gotcha.
It was a good show, and it was fun. And then afterwards, we found this little, like, underground speakeasy jazz club, and that had really good cocktails. And it was like in that one date on what's
Heart
that
Signal.
show we watched? Yes, Heart Signal, when they were in the little jazz club. It was very much that vibe, and except it was more 20s themed because they were going for the speakeasy side of it. But it was pretty great. It was like our table was right up in front of the band, and it was a good time. No one was late for that.
Did you request a song that may or may not been from La La Land?
I did not request a song.
Okay.
I would not be so bold. Just let them do whatever they want to do.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was my recent events.
Nice.
What's up with you?
What I'm dealing with right now is the lack of air conditioning in my house.
Oh no.
So, and we're going into another heat wave, and it's going to be a couple days till it gets fixed.
How long have you been without?
2 days, maybe.
Oof.
Yeah, but I think I should make it through the podcast. We'll see if my computer makes it through the podcast.
Oh,
might get hot in this small room with a computer on.
But you do have it up off the floor, right?
Yes.
So the fan isn't blowing directly into the carpet. Okay.
Yeah, did the best I can do right now.
Okay.
But I think we're gonna make it.
I hope so.
Last time, though, we podcast about the show Ghosts.
Yes.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah. I enjoyed that as well. I have watched some of the American version now.
Oh, great. Okay. So I have watched more of the American version as
I have
well.
watched a lot of the American version.
So have I. Yeah. It's okay.
I want to say I'm like 9, 10 episodes in. Like,
Okay, I might be a little bit further than you, but I haven't finished. I think it's like 18 seasons, 18 episodes right now.
mhm.
And there's going to be a season 2 in the fall, which means it will have more episodes than the BBC version.
Well, already they're not following the BBC
Okay, I
version.
was
They
going to
have a
ask you that.
couple episodes, like the Scout Leaders like Death Day episode. That was a BBC episode. The one where they have neighbors that come over and they do a dinner party. That was a BBC one. But a lot of the other ones have not been actually related to the British version. And I like that. Like I like that it's become more of its own distinct thing. And it's a different vibe. It feels like a different show
Better
even
vibe.
though it's got the same premise. I wouldn't say better. Like I really
Okay.
like the BBC version, but it's different and it's enjoyable in its own way. And yeah, I got to the D&D episode, which was really the thing that piqued my interest, and that was fun. Love a good D&D episode.
Definitely going to finish the American version. I did watch the 3rd episode of the BBC version.
Did that get you more into the vibe you were looking for, where they've accepted
No.
the ghosts? No, I
No. I
forget
would
what the
just
third episode is.
yeah, it's the Boy Scout dying episode,
Okay,
which is
yeah.
like episode 6 of the American version.
Hmm.
But even within the episode, it's like the main plot is the same, but there's a lot of side stuff that's totally different.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about. I don't remember what episode this was, but there's at one point in the show where the Viking ghost and
Mm-hmm.
the I hope you got to this part and the Native American ghost are watching television,
Yes.
and it's like I assume this is a fake reality TV show that they invented for this show.
I hope so. If not, well,
Called
I wouldn't be surprised if it existed,
and
honestly.
the show is called It's Getting Hot in Here. And the premise of the show is that you put a bunch of like single people, young single people, in a room or like a house, except it starts out where it's like it's freezing cold in the house. So
So
everybody's like
everybody has to wear big poofy parkas and you
yeah,
can't see if their bodies are hot or not.
yeah. And then when people get eliminated, they like reveal their bodies.
And then people get very upset
They're
because they
like,
threw away a
no.
hot person.
Yeah. But then slowly over the course of the episode and the season of the show as they're binge watching it, like they turn up the temperature until it's like crazy hot in the house, and then everybody's forced to wear like bikinis and stuff.
I think they're actually naked in like the final episode.
Oh, really? I didn't catch
And
that.
then like the Viking and Native American ghosts are like disappointed. They're like, "What's all this blurring that they've done? Like,
Oh
where are
yeah,
everybody's bits?"
I forgot about that. Yeah, they were looking forward to nudity and they didn't get to actually see it. That's right. Oh man.
They are a good pairing, those two ghosts. I enjoy them.
American version of Ghost still going strong. Definitely recommend. Paramount Plus is where you can watch that.
Yeah, I'm watching the like I like the show enough that I'm watching it with ads, which is like, oh, I never
Oh
watch
yeah.
ads anymore.
Okay. That's all the check-ins I have, Sarah. Do you have anything else before we get into Money Heist?
No, I'm ready to get into Money Heist.
Okay. Now, Money Heist. This will be, I would say, the most dramatic and intense show we've talked about on this podcast. Would you agree with that, Sarah?
Oh yeah, that sounds fair.
Okay. This might be the most dramatic and intense show we ever talk about on this podcast.
Good possibility of that.
Yeah, I don't tend to like these super dramatic and intense shows.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, and maybe I'll try to explain or come up with the reasons throughout the podcast as to why it is. I love this show. Today we're gonna watch episodes 1 and 2 from the Netflix version, and I'll get into what that means. And I'm probably like 8 episodes into rewatching it because we watched it for the podcast. So I got back into rewatching it because we watched the first 2 episodes.
So you like it that much? Okay.
Yeah, I not only is it something I don't usually like, but I'm rewatching it now. But so Money Heist is a show that ran from 2017 to 2021, so it's completed. It has 5 seasons, which Netflix labels as parts.
Okay.
And this is where it gets weird. There are 48 episodes on Netflix for Money Heist.
Okay.
But if you go to IMDb or like the wiki page for the show, it's going to tell you that the show only has 41 episodes.
Oh.
So what happened was, I looked this up. In 2017, Netflix acquired the global streaming rights for the series, and they recut the first 15 episodes, which I think the first 2 seasons were 15
Okay.
episodes. They cut them into 22 episodes.
Oh.
So
Weird.
the Netflix version of this is a kind of like, I assume it's like kind of like a remastered, because it's so well done that I'm expecting that they made it better.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that I'm sure the show was good before they got their hands on it, but the cliffhangers that they have at the end of every episode, even though they added more episodes to the same content, is still really good. So
Okay.
they must have had like cliffhangers in the middle of episodes when they only
Yeah.
had 15 episodes. So yeah, not if you're watching on Netflix, none of that matters. just press play and it'll play. But that's the history.
Okay.
So Netflix, when they picked it up, there were only 2 seasons or 2 parts of the show, and then they greenlit the seasons 3, 4, and 5. And then around the same time, when you search for Money Heist on Netflix, you'll see there's like 2 different like behind the scenes contents for the show, because this show is actually very popular.
Yeah.
But somehow Sarah hasn't watched it.
I mean,
Oh.
I've seen it like on the top whatever's on Netflix,
Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, I'll get to that one day.
Yeah. There's probably plenty of people who haven't watched it. But yeah, so there's in 2020 there was a documentary called Money Heist: The Phenomenon, which I believe is kind of like maybe something Netflix made to kind of like hype up seasons 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Because after the show was like really popular for the first 2 seasons. And then there's something in 2021 called Money Heist from Tokyo to Berlin, which is like all the filmmakers and actors like talking about the making of the show.
Okay.
So you'll see that. And then also, if you search Money Heist on Netflix, you'll see a Korean version called Money Heist Korea Joint Economic Area. The subtitle of that.
Chunky subtitle, but okay.
Yeah. From what I can tell, I haven't watched it. It seems like it's the same as the Spanish version.
Just like a remake. Okay.
Yeah, except there's only 6 episodes, but they're longer. Like they might be like 70, 80 minutes per episode.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't think actually lines up to the original edit of the show, because I think it was like 9 episodes in part 1 and then 6 in part 2. But I don't know, maybe they edit it more in line with the original version before Netflix changed it.
I've
I'm
also
not sure.
seen some like dramatic K-dramas where episodes are really long. So like it might just be they're chill with long episodes, not necessarily trying to line up with anything, but just like it made sense for them to make it that length.
Yeah. I don't think they're like in the middle of releasing episodes and there's just 6. Okay. And I don't know if it covers all of season 1 of the Spanish version or if they're doing their own thing with the pacing of it. I'm not sure. Okay. But I have only watched the main event, which is just Money Heist. That's all I've watched. And Sarah has not watched it.
Well, I mean, now I've watched 2 episodes.
2 episodes. Okay. So that's what we're doing today. Do you have any thoughts on Money Heist before we get into the recap?
No, I mean, it's something that was on my list that I meant to watch for a long time, just because I kept hearing about it from various sources and just hadn't gotten around to it. There's some quality masks in the thing that are a little spooky if you stare at them for too long, but yeah, I don't know. I was excited to get a chance to watch it.
Okay, good, good. I'm always worried, when you bring a show to the podcast and the other person hasn't watched it, you never know how it's gonna go.
I feel like you worry about that more than I do. I'm just like, haha, this is what we're watching now. Deal with it.
Well, I do the same thing, but then I also worry about it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Episode 1 of Money Heist. Here we go. A woman awakens suddenly from a nightmare.
Okay, well, but let's say it like it is. My notes are opens with a hot girl in underwear on bed.
Okay. All right. You take it away. Take away the scene.
There. I mean, that was it. That's like the important thing from the first shot. It's just like, oh, there's a hot girl in her underwear. All right. This is the vibe. I'm here for it.
Okay. I think we get her name, or not her real name, but what her name is going to be in the show.
Yes. She is
Tokyo.
called Tokyo.
Yeah, her name is Tokyo, and I think she is going to kind of play the role of like the narrator in a lot of the parts in the show. So
Yes.
I guess like technically she's the main character, but there are going to be a lot of main characters in this
Hmm.
show. And then we get a quick backstory of like what's recently happened to her, I think. Do you want to explain what you took away? So this show is we watched, I assume you did this too. I watched this in with subtitles. It's in Spanish with English subtitles.
I had to change it because Netflix was like, "You want it dubbed," and I was like, "No, no, I don't. Let's try again." So people might have to actively change it,
Yeah,
but
okay.
yeah, I watched it with subtitles. So what I got from this is that she has a history of heisting with the subtitle said the love of her life. So I don't know, boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, wife, who knows? But they have been heisting together, and apparently during their last heist, things went pear shaped, and her partner got shot by a guard, and then she shot the guard, and now she's on the run, and her face is plastered over everywhere, news and billboards or whatever. Like they're hunting her down.
All right. You picked up on all that real well. I think I know her whole story from watching the show, but I don't think I like picked up on every detail from this quick montage in the beginning. But good
I
job.
can
That was
both
nice.
pay attention to subtitles and hot girl in underwear. I am multi-talented like that.
But I would say one of the important lines that she says is that she went from thief to murderer really
Yes.
quick when her lover got shot. I guess they had never really, you know, killed anybody before in their heist, but as soon as someone she cared about was in danger, she couldn't stop herself, you know.
Yeah. She got to shooting.
That's how she got in really big trouble. Now she's a murderer, not just a thief. So she's gonna throw on some sunglasses and a hoodie. She doesn't want to get
And some
recognized.
pants,
And some pants, you know.
as you do.
But the sunglasses and the hoodie to protect herself from being seen.
Mhm.
And she's gonna walk outside. She's gonna go to a payphone and she's gonna call her mom.
First mistake.
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, I gotta assume if you're on the run, just assume that you're anybody you care about, their phone is tapped and the cops are waiting for you. Like, just gotta assume that.
Yeah. So this show is gonna become like an Ocean's 11 style kind of heist situation.
Hmm.
And Tokyo is the first character we're being introduced to. And she's not the brains of the operation. So
Oh no,
yeah, so
nope, not by a long shot.
so yeah, I'm not surprised. It's okay that she makes this mistake. Um, but she's talking to her mom. The gist of it is like she's planning on fleeing the country, but she still wants to like see her mom sometimes and stuff. And then we're seeing her mom on her phone in her mom's house.
It's a real tight shot, so you just like see her mom's face and like the phone, but eventually like it pans around and she asks her like, "Are you alone?" And she's like, "Yes," but like you see in the background that there's a bunch of cops in her house.
Yeah. So Tokyo was planning on going to see her mom like one last time.
Hmm.
But the mom basically like didn't say anything to her and is basically like about to help the cops arrest her.
Yeah.
But fortunately, right after she hangs up the phone, her narration comes over and she said, That's when my guardian angel first showed up. And what happens is a man pulls up to her in a car and it becomes an aggressive situation pretty quickly, right, Sarah?
Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Uh, as you should never trust a random man who pulls up beside you and tells you to get in his car. She pulls a gun on him pretty quick
Yeah.
and demands that he explains himself. And he shows her some pictures of, I guess he was stalking her mom's house. And so he has pictures of her mom meeting with the cops and like snipers on rooftops nearby. So she believes him when he says that it's a trap and she should not go home.
Yeah. And then he is going to tell her about a job that he's putting together.
The ultimate
The
heist.
ultimate heist, 2.4 billion euro heist, which Tokyo is going to narrate that is the biggest in history, would be the biggest in history.
Is there I mean, I guess there must be somewhere a scoreboard for all the heists, so that way
Yeah.
all the heisty criminals can compare their top scores.
She mentions other heists, but I did not look them up to see if they were
See if they
real
were real
or
heists.
if I'm sure they were. But I didn't look up the amount of value that was stolen or whatever.
Hmm.
But the man in the car is also going to say he's looking for people who don't have much to lose. So that is why he is aware of Tokyo's situation, even though I think it's pretty recent, right?
Yeah, I
Seems
think
really
it's just been
recent.
like 11 days is
Something
since
like
she
that. Yeah.
messed up the heist.
Yeah. So he's on top of it. He's aware of her situation and has found her and just wants her because he knows that she is desperate, basically.
Yeah, never trust somebody who wants you because of how desperate you are. Like, that's never going to be a good time.
You don't think this was a good choice by
I mean,
Tokyo?
okay, in
What else are you
this,
going to do?
sure, in this thing, yes, it was a good choice. But just generally, it feels like a rule where, like, if somebody's like, oh, yes, I want the most desperate people that just run away, it's going to be a bad time.
But cut to, we see Tokyo and the man like walking, and then they 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 like pan out or change the camera angle, and there's like 9 people walking in a line towards like a country house.
Yes.
And it's very like I love the pacing of this because the first this opening scene with Tokyo is like how a lot of like dramas will start where they're like this slow build,
Mm-hmm.
but it was pretty fast, only like maybe 5 minutes, something like that. And then they just get right to it with this like
Oh, yeah.
Ocean's 11 style cool music, slow motion
Mm-hmm.
walk up to a house with these. It's gonna be 9 people, so I guess it's Ocean's 9.
Yeah, they look like so cool in that scene, but then it like cuts to them and it's all these cool people like crammed in these little teeny school
Yes,
desks.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love that as soon as they go in the house, they like walk upstairs, and then they're all like in a classroom environment, sitting in these little desk chairs with the guy from the car is at like the front and the on the blackboard.
And like he literally writes like welcome.
Yes.
And well, his name he is called the professor, so it very much fits with his vibe.
We're gonna find out not the names of these people, but what they're gonna go by for the show very soon. So the professor, the man from the car, is gonna start explaining the situation to everybody. And he's saying that what they're gonna do is they're gonna study for 5 months on how to do this heist that he has planned.
And he is immediately met with some grumbling. And why would we need to do that? That's ridiculous. And he's
Yeah.
like, people study for years to get a job, to get a salary. You're not gonna study for 5 months to get more money than your family could ever use or whatever. Like he is prepared with a comeback.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
Now these people that he's gathered up probably have not been very successful in studying in their life.
I mean, that's probably fair.
So they're not looking forward to it. But what is 5 months in the grand scheme of things for these people?
It's true.
Yeah. So then he's going to explain the main rules that people need to go by for this heist.
So there, no names, no personal questions, and no fucking. Or no
No
relationships,
personal relationships
whatever.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Which is like an impossible like what? Like if you live with someone, you have a relationship with them, whether or not it's like good and communicative is it doesn't matter, it's still a relationship, but sure, okay.
Yeah. It seems a little bit of like, he has to say it in order to try to minimize the amount of attachment they get to each other, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be in the same house for 5 months, so
And also, these don't seem like big rule followers. I'm just gonna
yes.
put that
So
out
they're
there.
all this is when they decide to pick their names since they're not allowed to use their real names. The one I wrote down is that they threw out using planets since there are
Yes.
9 of them.
But then somebody would have to be Uranus. So of
Uranus.
course they didn't go with that.
The one guy was like, "Oh, we can't do planets now." So then they come up with cities. They're going to use cities, and
Yes.
that's when we get Tokyo, who we already met,
hmm
and then we meet Berlin, who
Yes.
is like a diamond thief. And all
hmm
these guys, as we go through, like they have like pretty serious criminal records. Other than the professor, when we get to him, he will not.
And she goes through like their like rap sheet basically of what their specialty is and the kind of crimes they've done. But so my note about Berlin is that he's a dude in a suit. It's kind of creepy, and he's in charge of the heist.
Now, did you get that just from this scene, or is that your opinion for the first 2 episodes?
Both. I mean,
Both.
she does.
Okay.
She introduces him as the guy staring at her ass. So I'm like, okay, that's the vibe we got for this guy. Got it.
Okay. But then behind Berlin, there's going to be Helsinki and Oslo, who are twins, and they're just kind of like the soldier muscle guys of the team.
Yeah, they look like bikers, like older bikers.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I think they're like Serbian mercenaries or something.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then we have Moscow and Denver, who are father and son. Moscow's the father, and Denver is the son. And Moscow is like the minor tunnel guy, good with a thermal lance kind of expert.
Yes.
And then the son is just there.
He seems to just get in fights a lot. Like I think he's just
Yeah.
up to no good.
The son is not qualified to be there or doesn't have a specific set of skills that would
He's
make
just
him valuable.
a package deal with Moscow.
Yes, yeah. And then we have Rio, who
he's the computer guy.
He's the tech guy, yeah. Every team needs a tech guy. And then I think Tokyo describes Rio as like her only weakness.
Yes.
Something like that.
She also describes him as really smart with any sort of technology, but otherwise kind of dumb. Like,
oh,
just because
really?
he's really young, like it's like he was born yesterday when it comes to anything else.
I think Rio's like 22, something like that. He's not like,
yeah,
a kid, but yeah, still
yeah.
young. And they like clearly foreshadow that they're, despite the rule not having personal relationships, Rio and Tokyo are gonna definitely have a relationship.
Yes.
Before this 5
100%.
months is over. Yeah. And then we have Nairobi. And I don't know about you, Sarah. Nairobi is the best for me.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's a counterfeiter, and I think she's kind of youngish, and also just, I don't know, she's got a fun, sassy attitude.
Counterfeit bill expert, I think is how they describe her. And then her hairstyle is kind of wild. Like, she looks like she's like a lion with the way her hair is. Like, she has like a mane, like a male lion, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wild hairstyle. She's very unique looking. And then we meet the professor. And so for the first 8 people, they were showing like them walking in front of like a police station height thing with a card with their name on it, like they were being arrested.
Like getting their picture taken for their records. Yeah, mugshot. That's the word.
But then when they go to the professor, they show the exact same position that they were all in, except there's nobody there because the professor is like a ghost.
He has no criminal record.
Yeah, I think they say he hasn't renewed his license since he was 19.
Yes.
And I assume he's maybe in his like 40s, something like that in the show.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And the professor is the true mastermind of the operation.
Yes. So they never go into how everybody picks their city names, but I would love to know if you had to pick a city name for this heist. If you were what would you pick?
Tokyo is a really good one.
Okay, but Tokyo's taken.
If it's taken, so. Like if I did not get first pick of any of these.
Yes, you have to pick one that they have not chosen.
Tokyo's name definitely gets explained at some point why she picked that.
Okay.
I don't know about the rest of them.
Because I'm not sure like what the reasonings are. I have a long list of things I have thought about.
I had my own question about the names.
Well, what was your question about the names?
My question was the son's name is Denver, and I'm like, really, Denver? Why is Denver a choice that somebody's making? Like, this is the one. I assume this is Denver, United States.
Colorado?
Yeah, like the United States.
Is there another Denver? I don't know. I'm not good at geography.
But if you're gonna pick a city in the United States, is Denver really the one? I was thinking Dallas would be an obvious one.
That's a good one. I mean, like the ultimate like try too hard badass US city name I think is Phoenix, right? Like if you're trying hard to sound cool, like that's the one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Oh man, I don't know how much time I want to consider thinking about this. Trying to think of a bunch of like capitals of things.
I spent some time looking at a map, and got down a weird rabbit hole.
All
Of
right, let me
Canadian
hear
towns.
yours. Let me hear
Okay,
some of
so
yours.
like if we're just picking a city that I like Portland, so sure. But like the part of me
works.
that wants to cause trouble wants it to be a city name that has a city in it just because it's dumb. So it'd be like New York City, Oklahoma City, Ho Chi Minh City, like just something
Well,
long
I
and
think you
dumb.
would just be New York.
No, I would insist on city being part of my
Well,
name.
I don't think you're gonna make this group of people. They're gonna call you what they want to call you.
That's probably true. But then like there are a lot of cities that are just people names. So like Jackson, Sydney, there is a town in Canada called Regina, and I just wish it was Regina George because then I'd just be Regina George.
Okay, you really did some research on this.
It's just I don't know. I got in a rabbit hole of Canadian geography. It was weird, but like also if you're gonna do a person's name, you could be like St. Louis. That's kind of fun. But so there's also this list of absolutely ridiculous Canadian towns that so there's like Saskatoon, which is just fun to say. Uranium City. Summer Beaver is a town in Canada, and that would be fun. Also, Pickle Lake is a town. I just kind of want to go see what's in Pickle Lake.
Okay. These are not things you knew about. Like you just
No, these are like I was looking at a map and I'm like, there's a town called Pickle Lake. Amazing. That's my heist name. Oh, but if you wanted to be like a cool badass, you could be Moose Jaw. Or
okay.
a really, really long one I found was Happy Valley Goose Bay. That would be fun and silly. But like my absolute favorite one, there's a town in Canada called Medicine Hat. I just want to be in a group of heisty people and my name is Medicine Hat. It's like here comes Helsinki and Oslo and Tokyo and Medicine Hat. Like, I just love it.
These people would be like, "That's not a city. You can't be that." That's literally what they would say.
And I'd be like, look, it's on a map right here. It's in Canada. Medicine Hat. That's me. You're right. I wouldn't get along with these people and they'd give me a dumb name.
Everything they picked is like pretty big profile cities, I would say, except for Denver. Denver's still. I mean, Denver's a big city, but
capital.
It's a capital of a state in the U.S. It's not the capital of the U.S. Or
yeah,
it could have been Washington and just not on D.C. or something.
I guess.
Not that that name would fit for the character that is named Denver. But how about Jeddah? That's a good one.
Oh, there you go.
That might be my own.
I like it.
That's the best I came up with while you were talking.
No, I'm gonna go with Medicine Hat.
Okay.
Or Moose Jaw. Moose Jaw's pretty good. I think they might let me be Moose Jaw.
You'd just be Moose if you chose that.
I guess that's
in
true.
Like within hours.
Within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Demoted to Moose.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the weird rabbit hole I went down
with
the show.
Okay. So the professor is still explaining.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's going to say is, we're not actually stealing anyone's money.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he has his plan is very ambitious. He says, we will get the public to like us as part of this plan. And there's going to be no violence, no blood, no victims. That is his goal. That's another big rule. He doesn't mention the beginning.
Yeah.
He doesn't mention the beginning, but the no violence, like no victims in terms of like hurting people is a big thing. And that goes together with like getting the public on their side.
Yeah, like that's his like big thing. It's just like as long as the public opinion is on our side, that's as soon as you shoot anybody, we've screwed that over and they're gonna think we're terrible.
Now at this point in the show, Sarah, do you know what he meant by we're not stealing anybody's money?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I explained it to you already or
you might have, but I had forgotten it.
Okay. So I love these little like sentences they say that like they do actually intrigue me as like, okay. Like I like heist movies and this is already setting up to be kind of like a unique kind of heist situation. And we're only we're probably 10 minutes or less into the show at this point, and it's already more entertaining than most dramas that I've watched before. And then Tokyo says, "What are we robbing?" And the professor points to the back of the room where there's like a miniature model set up of a building, and he says, "The Royal Mint of Spain."
Yeah, before he actually said what it was like, I don't know enough about Spain to know what this building is, but it seems fancy.
And then we cut to the opening music. What did you think of the opening music of the show?
It's not what I expected. It was like,
oh, really?
Well, I mean, it was in English. I thought it was maybe a song I had heard before, but then couldn't place it. And I don't know, I expected something a little bit more high energy, I think.
Oh, okay.
But
It
that's not to say I didn't like it. It wasn't what I expected.
Yeah, I like it. I kind of forgot about it because there's a song that they use later in the series. I forget when. That in my mind becomes like the theme of the show, but it's actually never the opening theme of the show.
Okay.
But this opening theme, it reminds me of the Westworld opening
Yeah,
theme song. It does have words though. I don't think the Westworld one does,
that is
but it's the same
correct.
kind of like vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. I listened to it once and then skip it, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after the opening scene, we cut back and the gang that we just got introduced to is in the back of a truck. Except this time, they're all wearing red jumpsuits and
Mm-hmm.
identical masks, which
Yes.
we find out are Dolly masks at some
Yes.
point, which is a
Painter.
um, Spanish artist, Salvador Dali.
He does the melty clocks.
Oh, he's the clocks guy. They say that,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Oh, I don't know.
They say something about that. I get lost in this conversation that they're about to have because what they're gonna discuss is like like what makes a mask scary because some of them are not convinced that this Dolly mask is like the best choice for the heist.
I think it's a little creepy, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely is because it's like it's super elongated face, like it's not
Mm-hmm.
like a normal looking face. But I thought this discussion was funny because
Yeah, I
like
think Denver's like it should be like a skeleton or something,
no, no,
and
no.
I'm like,
Denver, no. Denver says we should be Disney characters
oh, right, right, right.
like Pluto, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck.
Yes, because you'll seem extra unhinged when you're like wearing children's things and carrying
Yeah,
guns.
yeah. That was the best. That was the best idea that came up in this quick conversation. But then they like pan it, so they had like all the guys talking in the shot, and then they like zoom out a little bit, and Tokyo and Nairobi are like kind of like shaking their heads, like, "What the hell are these guys talking
They are
about?"
unimpressed with all of these men
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. I think Tokyo narrates like this job really needs more women or something like that
Yes.
after this silly conversation. But yeah, so they get out, they're taking this truck somewhere and they get out and they're picking up a bunch of equipment, different kinds of guns and explosives and stuff you might need for a heist. And this is the
Yeah.
beginning of like this team of people is very resourceful.
Mm.
I think like the professor in particular has a lot of like connections and resources that he can go to if like when things go south later on
Yeah.
in the show.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy how easily he could just get some stuff that he needs
Hmm.
sometimes. But yeah, so this is gonna be like a pretty standard like carjacking kind of scene.
Yes, because they need to get all of these weapons and explosives into the mint, and the way they're going to do that is by stopping the truck that takes in the paper that the mint uses and like load all their stuff into that
Yes.
and drive in. But that truck is escorted by two cop cars, so they have to deal with those cops as well.
Yeah. And this is a pretty like basic scene, but what I like about it is that Tokyo is like narrating over the whole scene about like why the carjacking is like working because like you know the the cops that are on this rotation are only 26 years old or something like that and
Mm-hmm.
this truck driver is not going to risk his life for like the salary he's getting paid and all these little
Right.
details as to like it's not just like they didn't think about this and it's just going to work because that's how the movies works. It's like they actually give a reason as to why this plan should be working and they're going to do that like throughout the show.
Yeah, a lot of all the decisions made are based on the psychology of how people are going to be thinking in those situations. And like that's how the professor can predict what they need to do at a particular time to make things go their way.
Yes, and I think this is what I really like about this show is the actual effort into explaining why the dramatic bits are working
Mm-hmm.
instead of just you know creating a situation for there to be drama in the show, but then that drama just kind of gets resolved because that's just how TV shows work.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is still that, but they are actually giving me reasons.
And so it all like logically makes sense.
Yeah. They at least it's good enough to convince me. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so they're basically gonna use the guards and like threaten them with guns and
Mm-hmm.
make them drive them into the mint, essentially.
Yeah, it's like there's two people in each car and they swap clothes with one person from each car. So like the driver is still the original driver, but they all have somebody with a gun on them.
Oh, okay. I didn't even pick up on the clothes swap thing. See, that's
Oh
good.
yeah, yeah. They pack three guys in the back of the truck in the red jumpsuits.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so the guys they hijack become hostages in this too, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. See, look, it's so there's thought out. All right, but then we cut from this scene, and there's a girl on a bus, and she seems lonely, right?
But not for long.
Do you want to describe what happens in this scene, Sarah? Because it's a little weird.
Yeah, so she's sitting on a bus. She's the only person, like, she doesn't have somebody in her accompanying seat, but she's like, there's this guy looking at her. She's looking at the guy, and then she gets a text message from the guy that's like, hey, can I come sit with you? Because he couldn't bother to say that. Like, he's close enough where he could just, but whatever. And she says, okay. And he comes over and he sits with her, and then he's immediately like, hey, can I be your boyfriend?
Yeah, okay.
And she's just like, sure.
Okay, that's what I thought happened, but I wasn't sure if I was missing something.
Yeah, my notes for this are a teenage girl on a bus gets a boyfriend. Like, okay, that's part of the show. Don't know why it's important, but okay.
Yeah. So they agree to just be a couple, and then they
Mm-hmm.
kiss and hold hands. And
Yep.
we also find out that this bus, why it's going to tie in, is it's a school trip, and I believe this is like a British high school.
It
Um,
is.
I think the whole bus
Oh,
is from a British high school.
I don't know if it's specifically British, but it might be like a foreign school of like where a lot of foreigners come. It might be a British. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I mean, they're pretty close, so I thought like, okay, maybe you can just go on a field trip to the Royal Mint of Spain. From,
Oh,
you know.
well, they are speaking and texting in Spanish, but like even amongst each other,
Oh,
I
are
don't
they
know.
speaking Spanish to each other? You might
Well,
be
when she
right.
texts him, she texts "sí" instead of "yes"
Oh,
her.
that's true.
But that might just be because the show is in Spanish. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't think about that. For some reason, I thought this whole bus was like British students, but
I do know that she is in fact British. We find that out later.
yeah.
I don't know about the rest of these kids, but they are all in like uniforms, so it looks like they go to kind of a fancy school.
Okay.
So it might be an international school. It might be a very long field trip. Who knows?
But yeah, this bus is going to arrive at the Royal Mint, and the students are
Yep.
there for a tour. I think it's some weird situation where like there's the mint, but then there's like a museum for the mint that's like part of the same building.
Yes.
So I think that's why all these kind of people are going to get involved in this situation because
Yes.
the museum and the mint itself are combined in one building.
And as they're going in, Tokyo and Nairobi are watching them from a car nearby.
Yes. They when they're walking in, they pan out, and Tokyo is like radioing to the professor. He's like, she says, the little lamb is going in.
So this girl who just got a boyfriend must be important.
Yes, you would hope. Otherwise, what are we watching here?
Well, I mean, earlier there was just a scene where a woman took a pregnancy test and then it cut away, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
that was somebody. I hope she's okay. Sure.
I don't know if Netflix made that editing decision, but it was just like it was literally like a 3 second randomly in between things where it was just like, oh, there's a woman that got a positive pregnancy test.
It's like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah,
What's her relationship status? Is she happy right now? We don't know.
yeah. I don't know why they edited it like that.
Some interesting choice.
And then also the robbers, the what do you want to call I think they refer to themselves as robbers, I guess. The gang of heist people.
Yeah, there's
I
not like
guess.
heisters isn't a word. I don't
Yeah.
know what you
Robbers seems like too basic for
like
this level of
criminals. I don't know.
yeah, the gang.
The gang. Yeah.
Yeah, the gang is gonna get to like the guards checkpoint at the mint. But they're gonna get through. And then we cut to the woman that had a positive pregnancy test again.
And she works in the mint. So there we go. That's why we care about her.
All these different characters before the heist starts we're getting to meet them a little bit. We find out she's Monica. Her name is Monica, and she's like the front desk secretary, I guess, of the mint. Is that how you
Solid,
describe
maybe.
her?
When we first see her in here, like she's hunched over some money. I thought she was like looking for imperfections or something. I don't really know.
Oh, okay.
All I do know is that Arturo seems like he's her boss, and he is also the father of that baby, and he has a wife and children. So it's a difficult situation.
Arturo is definitely like he's like the manager of the mint. I think he's like a big deal.
Yeah, there's probably some fancy like title that goes with being in charge of the mint, but I don't know what it is.
I thought Monica was like his secretary or something, which is why they are involved with each other. But yeah, so Arturo is gonna come over and like flirt with Monica, I guess, as he normally does at work.
Mm-hmm.
And Monica's gonna break the news that she's pregnant, and he does not have a good reaction to this
Just
news.
like walks away.
Yeah, and then we cut away. We quickly cut away from that, or do we? I forget.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Let's just talk about these two.
Okay.
Yes, like you said, they're gonna get into like an argument after the first awkward interaction, and we're gonna find out that Arturo has like 3 kids and he's already married.
And she thought he was going to be happy about this, and
Yeah,
not quite sure why, but he's just like, no, this is not a good thing.
yeah. He has 3 kids, but he hasn't had a kid. Like all his kids are like 20 years old or more, something like that. Like it's been a while for him.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the rest of the scene is just so intense with the cuts that they do.
Yes.
And I tried to write everything down that happens, but it's like really fast, and we're talking about it way slower than it's happening.
But so by now the truck has made its way inside the mint.
Yes.
And Rio is doing his hacker thing and has managed to turn off the alarm.
Yes.
At the same time, Tokyo and Nairobi are going in the front door with bags full of guns.
Yeah.
And so they time it just right, like once the alarm is off, to like go through the metal detector and then like point guns at people, basically.
Yes.
So like everybody, and at the same time, everybody's popping out of. People were hiding in these big tubes that I guess the money paper was supposed to come in. So they like 3 of them pop out like they're popping out of a cake, and they're just like, haha, guns.
And they do it in the middle of like Monica and Arturo's like argument that they're having.
Yes.
So they're arguing about their situation, and then these heist people pop out right as they're talking. Oh my god, intense.
But yeah, the gang has timed it up so simultaneously at all these different locations, they're revealing themselves and scaring everybody.
Yeah. And because the alarm is disabled, like despite all the commotion going on inside, like the outside world is not aware of what's happening yet.
Yeah. And so they're like shepherding everybody in a single direction so they can control them in one area.
Yes, everybody's going to get rounded up. We're going to have guards, tourists, students, workers at the mint. They're all in play in this story. They're all going to be hostages.
And it's a lot of people.
But there's somebody that they can't find. And it's somebody that's important.
They can't find that teenager who recently got a boyfriend. She is missing.
I don't know. Do we hear her name? Her name is going to end up being Allison Parker.
Yes, we hear it eventually. I don't know when.
But they can't find her because she's in the bathroom making out with the brand new boyfriend, I guess.
Yes. And this dumb boy is an asshole.
Yes, he's terrible. You can describe this scene if you want to, Sarah.
I mean, well, first it's the stereotypical, like, he's going too fast for things, and she's like, no, thank you. And then he's like, but what if we just take, like, a cute, sexy picture together? And then, like, last minute, like, rips part of her top off, so, like, it's a topless picture. And I got the vibe that he was not trying to actually be her boyfriend from the beginning, but maybe this was all a big dare to try to, like, get a terrible picture of her and, like, put it on the internet and ruin her reputation or something.
Oh, you think it was, like, some sort of dare? I think he just wanted...
Or it was just he just wanted to ruin her for some reason because...
I thought he just wanted to have sex with her, and then when she didn't immediately give it to him, he was like, oh, I know what I do in this situation. I'll be an asshole. Something like that's what I thought
that might be his go-to move too. Yeah, it's just a lot of like, this guy's terrible.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of people that suck in this show.
Okay, so are there people who don't suck?
Oh, you think everybody sucks?
Well, I mean, I
Everybody is like doing some amount of, badness.
I would say at this point, not everyone has proven to me that they suck, but I am open to the idea that they may suck in the future.
This
So,
boyfriend guy is the first to like do something like truly terrible. I mean,
okay.
they're robbing the mint, but
Well, yeah.
they already explained, they're not stealing anybody's money, so they,
Yeah.
they haven't done anything wrong yet.
But yeah, this asshole's move is what gets them caught because he like took the picture with her phone and he's holding it way up above her and like I guess gonna send it to himself or tweet it or whatever dumb asshole
Yeah,
boys do.
he puts it on Instagram like instantly, I think is
Oh,
the
is that what
idea.
he did?
Yeah, so it's on social media like immediately, and he
Well,
posted it to her account. So it looks like she's gonna end up being like very worried about this, because it just looks like she posted like a nude picture of
mm,
herself online
yeah.
with no context. And this happens very soon, but like all the hostages are gonna get their phones taken away, so she doesn't have an opportunity to delete it
Yes.
before her phone gets taken away. So this is gonna weigh on her.
Yes. So she and the dumb asshole get caught like right after this happens and get rounded up with all the other hostages
Yeah.
in the main area.
Yeah, Tokyo finds them, and then finally, this intense scene is over. And I was like, oh man, I love the pacing of this. Like, I don't even think we're 20 minutes into this show yet.
Yeah.
Like, maybe 15 minutes. And just like, we have gotten to the business that is this show.
Yes.
We are not, it's not
Not messing
slow, not
around.
a slow build. I like it. So, yeah, cut to the next scene, and all the hostages are going to be blindfolded.
Yeah, they have these little sleep masks on, and then the gang feels fine taking their own masks off.
Yes.
And a lot of people are, upset because they're now hostages. And Berlin is like trying to calm this one lady down, and he's just very handsy and gross. And I did not enjoy him.
Okay, I was going to ask you, like, what's the progression? Early on, you just decided this Berlin guy is no good. Okay.
Yeah, and he proved it. Like like he did not give me any evidence to the contrary, and then gave me evidence to prove my theory.
If you've only watched 2 episodes, it's just the tip of the iceberg with this guy.
I imagine that is true.
But yeah, so Berlin is kind of going to be like the robber that is in charge for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to give a lot of these speeches to the hostages,
Yeah.
and he is definitely creepy, but he attempts, and I wouldn't say he's like totally terrible at it, but he's pretty good at seeming like reasonable in the beginning, where he's like apologizing to everybody for being in this situation, but like this is what it is, like we need hostages kind of thing.
Yes. It starts that way, but he definitely also has very menacing moments. Like
Yes.
a little later on when somebody peeks out from under their mask, like he makes it very clear that they're probably gonna die.
Yeah, he's simultaneously trying to calm them down while making them respect him with fear.
Yeah.
So it's I would say what you want about Berlin, but the actor that is playing Berlin, I think is pretty incredible in the
Oh
show.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
very good. So yeah, Denver is going to be going around collecting everybody's phone and getting their PIN number so that if the robbers want to use their phone for whatever reason, they can open it.
And it's important to note that Arturo has a dumb pin because
Yeah, yeah.
Arturo
That was
sucks.
like his PIN is like 1 2 3 4. I
Yes.
thought he was just lying.
Yeah, they never try it, but like
I think they do try it and realize it's right, but they just like don't
mm,
really highlight it. But they just like laugh at him. Arturo is the only hostage that they show who is like he says like, "Why do you need my PIN number?" Like kind of thing. Like
oh
he's
yeah, everyone else complies immediately.
yeah. Everybody is not asking questions, but Arturo is.
But like not in a way that makes me respect him at all.
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna wait a little while before we talk more about Arturo, but if you had watched this whole show, I have a lot to say about Arturo. I don't think what I
Okay.
want to say about him is necessarily like obvious after these first 2 episodes, but
Okay.
let's wait a little bit before I talk about more about Arturo.
Okay.
Yeah, so the phone's gonna ring at the front desk, and then Berlin immediately just asks, "Where's Monica?" He says the last name too, and he keeps yelling, "Where's Monica? Where's Monica?" And then Monica eventually steps forward. But this is like the first glimpse into that, like how prepared the robbers are. Like they know
who answers the phone.
They pretty much probably know every single hostage that was going to be in this building and how they could use them or how they should deploy them or
Yes.
whatever. Yes. Because he wants Monica to answer the phone because I guess she's the one that normally answers the phone. Let's just talk about this now. Let's talk about the phone call now.
Okay.
Berlin's going to say to Monica, pick up the phone and act like nothing's wrong. The person really wants to talk to, I'm thinking it's Arturo because he's like the manager.
Yes. I just kind of assumed that it was his wife. I don't know if that's accurate, but like the way she keeps, or the person on the other end like keeps pushing for like, well, just go get him. Like, where is he? Like, I just assumed it was his wife, but maybe it's not.
Arturo's wife does come into play in the show at some point.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it is. My guess is that Arturo's wife would know who Monica is to some degree. So I don't think Monica would have treated her like she is.
Oh, a very stressful situation.
Yeah. Obviously she can't go get Arturo, so she's basically gonna be like, oh, he's not available, and the person's gonna like press and press and press, and then eventually she's just gonna be like, look, I can't get him right now. Please, like, stop. And then she like hangs up the phone.
Yeah.
But overall, pretty good job by Monica here.
Yeah. She's got her shit together as much as you can.
And then while this is going on, Moscow is at one of the vaults in the mint. So this is a little weird. So they make money. I guess it's not weird, but if you don't, I didn't really thought about it. But they print money at the mint, but then they also have vaults. I think there's gonna be multiple vaults, at least 3, I want to say.
Okay.
Where they put money there in the vaults. But this is just one of the vaults that Moscow is going to be cracking open, and they open it up, and Denver shows up around the time he's opening it up, and they have a little bit of a celebration.
Oh yeah, he like it's a big square pallet of money.
Yeah.
He like jumps on it like it's a bed, and it's just like, can you imagine sleeping on a bed of money like this? Like he's real excited about just a big pile of money, which I mean, I get it. It's a big pile of money.
He talks about like he's talking with his dad, so this is a little weird, but he's like, doesn't he say something about like, can you imagine like having sex on top of this money or something? Yeah.
Yes, he does say that to his dad. They have a special kind of relationship. I don't
Get
know.
a little look into Denver's priorities.
Yeah. I mean, which I'm not surprised by the way he was described.
Yeah.
But Moscow basically like is like, get your shit together. Like we are nothing. Like this is only working because we've got a real smart guy telling us exactly what to do. So let's just do it, and then everything will be great.
Yeah, Moscow is like not book smart, but he is clearly like an experienced older man and knows his place when it comes to these heist things.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's gonna tell Denver like, don't be stupid, don't ruin the plan. That's like our job is to do our job and not ruin the plan because we are not smart enough to improvise.
Yes. So they start piling the money into bags.
Yeah, they're gonna get these like big black duffel bags and pile the money in. Now, this money in this vault, does this money belong to anybody, or is this just money that has been printed and is waiting to be added to circulation?
Yeah, I think it's just money that's been printed and waiting to be added to circulation.
So. Okay. Because again, this plan, as the professor claimed it to be, is that we're not stealing anybody's money.
But I also like when I did not remember what the whole premise of the show was. I just took that the way sometimes you'll see heist things where people are like, oh, well, we're robbing the bank, but that doesn't really hurt like the people. Like the bank has insurance and it's fine. Like it's not really hurting anybody. I took it to be like one of those things, but like very specifically, he actually does mean we're not taking anybody's money.
Yeah. And I was wondering about this money in particular, because by the end of this episode, like they almost intentionally don't steal this money and kind of like give it back.
Yes.
To like turn it over to the police. But we'll get to that. We're also going to see Helsinki is like waiting at a toilet in the bathroom.
Yes, and like the lid is down and then like it's like something is pushing it up, and I was real concerned for a minute. I did not know what was about to happen.
But then there's it's basically just like this giant cable wire is like coming out. Yes. And this is going to be how, I don't know if we know this yet. Maybe you can kind of tell from how they're like doing the cuts back and forth. But they're going to use this cable to communicate with the professor because the professor is not in the Royal Mint. He is like
He
their
is.
outside guy
Yeah.
who is going to be dealing with the situations outside. And he's kind of like has the God's view of the whole situation because he's going to get this whole setup with he's able to see like all the cameras inside the Royal Mint, and we'll get to more of the professor's setup. But I love the professor's role in this, and his role in this is like makes it, at least in my mind, like different than any other like hostage negotiation kind of movie or TV show in the past.
Yes, definitely. I agree. But yeah, so by using this cable, they don't have to like use a radio that somebody else can hear or cell phones or whatever. They just have a direct line that nobody knows about, and they can be real sneaky.
We get a scene where we see like all the hostage phones are
Oh
like
yeah, they
mounted on the
brought
wall.
supplies for like crafting, basically. Like
Yeah,
they velcroed them all to the wall. They have little labels of the pin code and the name that goes with each phone. They were prepared, which I shouldn't be surprised.
very organized. I'm liking it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in this scene, Rio and Tokyo are kind of going to be alone in the room. So then they go to a flashback
Yes,
because they're looking at each other like
they're making eyes.
flirty style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So surprise, surprise, they've been hooking up for the last 5 months.
yeah. And this is like the start of. I don't think this occurs too much in the first two episodes, but this show is like a high pressure, intense, life on the line situations kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a good amount of sex that happens in the show.
Well, gotta deal with stress somehow, I guess.
Now, this is before the heist, and they're just kind of studying in this country house for 5 months. So I understand this, but there are going to be points where like they're in the middle of the heist, and the police could decide to storm the mint at any time. And they might just be in the middle of having sex when that happens.
Or do they know that the police won't storm at that given time because of psychology?
They do, but you're never 100% sure.
That is true.
Like this heist is supposed to be like what, 12 days, something like that. I think you can wait 12 days.
But
5 months is long, but
there's also a lot of downtime. I'm just saying.
there's downtime where your life is still on the line though. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It is not the responsible way to heist things, yes.
Now the 5 months in the house, Rio and Tokyo hooking up. This, I believe, I wanted to because do you watch the show Big Brother?
I do not.
You do not, but you're aware.
I am aware.
Yeah, so it's in the show Big Brother. It's like a group of 16 people start in a house and they like vote each other out or whatever. And it's only like 3 months long.
But the temperature remains constant, so they don't have to wear parkas. Got it.
Yes. But without fail, in that show every season, like people become like like they think like they've found their soulmate.
Oh.
Like it's like insane.
Like really? Or are they like playing it up for the camera?
No. I mean, like there might be some level of like realisticness to it, but I mean they get into like really serious relationships with each other that, once they're out of the house for like a month or less, they realize, oh wait, the outside world is much different.
Yes. There's a thing about confined spaces that make people make different decisions about those sorts of things.
And even within like, 2-3 weeks, like these like showmances, as they call them, become like established.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's pretty crazy to me how fast it happens. But I guess when there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
And there's not as many options as normal.
Yeah.
Things happen.
I think is exactly the case of during this heist. So it makes sense.
Yeah. But like you put 8 people in a house together, like the odds of any of them being like lifelong partners with each other, it's so low that you would think it wouldn't happen all the time. But yet, this is where we are. Yeah, so I think we're going to find out like the night before the heist, or maybe like the 2 days before the heist.
Yeah, I think it's the night before.
The night before the heist. Enough has happened over the 5 months between Rio and Tokyo that Rio is essentially proposing to Tokyo.
Yes. I think we also find out that she's like 12 years older than him.
12?
So like, yeah.
Oh,
get
really?
It, girl.
Tokyo's like 34, you think? Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so like part of it is just like he is really young and dumb, but I think that's most of it. He's just really young and dumb and maybe hasn't had this intense of a relationship before or whatever that he's just like, "Oh yeah, this is it."
Yeah. What's also crazy about this is that Tokyo's supposed love of her life was just killed like in the last 6 months.
Yes. Yes.
Now she is not going to accept the marriage proposal, so she's not on the same intensity level of the
Yeah.
relationship as Rio is.
But she does care about him.
Yeah. And she didn't have a problem like hooking up with him for 5 months right
Yes.
after.
I think they even say that like they made it 4 days before they started hooking up.
4
like,
days?
so.
Oh yeah, that's really
Like,
fast, but I guess yeah.
but it may also be a coping mechanism. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Do you think the Rio Tokyo relationship in the first 2 episodes is intriguing? Do you like it?
It's intriguing, but I don't think it's like a long lasting, like, yes, they found love situation. I just think they've been thrown into a situation together and they feel some things
But
now.
are you here for it in the show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
All right. Not my favorite part of the story, but I guess it's interesting.
I mean, it does make things interesting at the end of this episode. Like, there are nice parallels that, like, make things make sense.
Yeah. The comparison I want to make for like the sex that happens in the show. Maybe it's not the best, not as realistic comparison. But if I was to hyperbolize it a little bit,
okay,
it'd be like in the movie Taken when
Uh-huh.
Liam Neeson is like trying to hunt down his daughter so he can save her life. Just just stops and has sex with people along the way just for fun. Like that would be a little bit of a weird movie, wouldn't it?
That would be super weird.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a slight difference in that they're not racing against the clock. They're like trying to just wait out the clock to a certain extent.
They have downtime.
So they have extra time.
The plan is to have downtime, but it's like a high pressure situation all the time. I don't know. You'll have to watch. I don't think there's a ton of inappropriate sex in the first 2 episodes, but if you watch more of it, you'll have to let me know what you think.
Okay, will do.
But then when we get back from the flashback, I think Berlin walks in the room and he's like, get ready to go out. We're about to trip the alarm. And it's like, oh, they're gonna trip the alarm. That's interesting. So they get their shit together. They're gonna go back down to the main lobby where all the hostages are. And Berlin is like telling the hostages what to do again. And they walk up to like the front entrance of the mint, and they open the doors, but then
these are like big metal like emergency doors almost.
So they basically have control over the metal detector area, and then there's like buttons that open the doors that like the security guards would use, and they're going to use these buttons throughout the show. But so they open the doors, but then they just stand there with the duffel bags in their hands, and they're just like waiting. And while this is going on, Arturo,
what a dumbass,
the main hostage so far, he's decided he's gonna pull up his mask and peek to see what's going on.
Yep, everybody's favorite goon, Berlin, sees him and basically tells him he's gonna die. He's like, you ever watch a horror movie and you see this one person in the beginning and they're like, oh yeah, that guy's gonna die. You're that guy. It's just like, oh no.
He doesn't actually do anything to him, but it's definitely like a very sadistic kind of like threat, I guess. Yes. That, but he's doing it. It's kind of theatrical because he's doing it in front of all of the hostages.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a message to all the hostages, like, this is what happens if you don't do what I say, which is so far just a threat, but it sounds like a very serious threat.
Yes.
So Sarah, I want to ask you, if you were a hostage in this situation, what would you be doing?
Exactly what I was told to do.
Exactly. Okay. We're on the same page here. Like,
that's how you survive these things.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. Arturo is frustrating in this show, and he only gets more and more frustrating to the point where, as terrible as some of these people are going to be, like Berlin, I think I might hate Arturo the most out of any character in the show when it's all said and done. Like, this guy just bothers me.
I'm almost looking forward to how awful he gets. Though.
Yeah. And Berlin, he's terrible and he's like a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
But they do some explaining around why Berlin is a psychopath, or they try to justify it
Tragic backstory.
when they
Okay.
get to his backstory.
Okay.
But with Arturo, the way I remember it, it's just kind of like this guy sucks. And it's almost like he's just like a tool sometimes to create additional drama.
Mm.
So I don't really appreciate the Arturo character. And I just hate the guy so much. Even though
Fair.
technically he's like a victim in the situation, I just really don't like this guy.
Well, all that we've seen of him outside of him being a victim is him being a dick, basically. Just
Yeah.
like cheating on his wife, like dismissing his mistress who's pregnant and just being like, "Pah, whatever." Like, what a great guy all around. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But the things that the decisions he's going to make as a hostage in this situation are just like,
Bad
there's like,
decisions.
no way. Like, dude, come on. He's just basically he's going to be the hostage that convinces himself that like they're like, oh, they're gonna do what they're gonna do and they're gonna kill us all. So he's like, he thinks like we might as well put ourselves in life-threatening situations because we're gonna die anyway. But like he's the only person that comes to this conclusion.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's frustrating. All right, so they're standing,
Yeah.
just standing there, and they're doing like a countdown. The professor's radioing to Berlin. He's like 2 minutes, and then 1 minute, and then 30 seconds, and then we actually get a flashback of the professor explaining what they're doing right here.
Yes. They're supposed to look like they're leaving with the money right as the cops show up. And then, oh no, the cops are scary. Let's go back inside and just shoot at the ground and not at any of the cops. Because again, not trying to hurt anybody. And then just make it look like they got trapped inside the mint.
Yes. So they took the money out of this vault, but they never intended to steal this money. At least I don't think so.
It might end up being bonus money, but like it's not the main goal.
Yeah, that I'm not sure like what this money in particular was meant for. But yeah, so that's why they're waiting. The professor can like hear the cop radios. So the cops are like giving updates on the radio like we'll be there in 2 minutes. And then the professor's telling Berlin, "Oh, they'll be in here 2 minutes." But instead of using that information to hurry up and get away, they're literally waiting for the cops to show up and then they're going to go outside.
Yes.
But then the cops get there and Tokyo kind of like jumps the gun, I guess. It wasn't obvious right away that she was doing anything wrong, but Rio in particular is going to have a reaction like, "Wait, don't go out yet," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes like, I don't know if she was trying to sell the situation or what she was doing, but she goes like pretty far down the steps outside.
Yeah.
Where like there is no cover for if the cops just like start shooting at her. And I don't know if she didn't expect this to happen, but yeah, the cops start shooting at her.
Yeah, I think in her voiceover, she's just like, yeah, it's one thing to be told all this, like, at the house, like, over the 5 months. But what he didn't tell us is that they were going to shoot back. And it's like, well, yeah, they're going to shoot back.
Yeah, it's like, did you really have to be told that they were going to shoot? Yeah, she strays too far, and Rio realizes this, so he's going to run out. And then Rio's actually going to get shot.
Yes. And she sees him fall after getting shot and immediately flashes back to her love of her life, gender and name unknown, getting shot when they had their last heist. And that causes her to just go ham and actually shoot some cops.
Yeah, she did not learn from that experience and is going to do exactly the same thing again.
Yes, you shot someone I care about, I'm going to shoot you instinct remains.
So she stops shooting the ground and starts actually shooting at the cops they're like trying to hide behind their police cars, but she's gonna get a couple of hits in on these cops. So immediately, hour into the heist.
We've deviated from the plan.
They've already broken the rules.
Yes.
But they're able to grab Rio somehow and drag him back in, but they drop the duffel bags and the bags of money are left outside.
Yep. And then they like close up the doors again.
Which I think they would have left the money outside regardless, because I think it's part of the con.
I think it
of
is
making
part of
that they messed up. Yeah. But yeah, end of episode 1.
Well, not quite. We do see that like Rio's okay.
Oh yeah.
Like he got grazed.
Did he get shot in the ear or something?
Yeah, like his ear got hit and I think it scared him a lot, and that's why he fell down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, end of episode 1. We could have stopped here, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go to the second episode. But what are you thinking so far at the end of episode 1, Sarah?
So far I'm liking it. Yeah.
Okay.
I like the pacing. I like the logical explanations of every step of the heist. I'm settling in for there's some people that I'm probably going to enjoy hating. That's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all around I'm in at this point.
Just the beginning on the list of people you're going to be hating in this show.
It is a fine line between just like, oh, this is terrible, and oh, this is a fun person to hate, but we'll see if it maintains.
Yeah. Whoever directed this show just did a phenomenal job with it, in my opinion. Like, just how they do certain shots in the show. I just think it's really, really well done.
I agree.
But I wanted to do 2 episodes of this because we do not get introduced to the main police officer negotiator woman.
Yes.
Who is going to be another big character in the show. She's not in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So are you good with that going to episode 2?
Yes,
let's go.
Do it.
Okay. Episode 2 opens up and it's going to be a mother. Well, I guess we don't know, but it's a mother, a daughter, and a grandmother doing arts and crafts at home.
And the child is sad because her birthday's coming up, but her dad will not be at the birthday party.
Yes. And how much of the... Maybe we can wait to talk about it, but how much of the dad relationship with the mother here gets talked about in the first?
I think the only thing is that he's not going to be there because she doesn't want him there, is what somebody says. Like,
okay,
the mom doesn't want him there.
Okay, I think there's a part in this episode. I'll wait till we get to it.
Yeah, later on that describes more their relationship.
I think it's only an episode or 2 after this episode that you kind of get the full explanation. I might just tell you what that is when we get to it, so you can get the idea of this character even more. Mm-hmm. But the mother, her name is Raquel.
Yes, Raquel.
And she gets a call on her phone, and it's going to be, I don't know who it is, but they're basically like calling her to be the police negotiator for the heist that's going on at the Royal Mint.
Before this call happens, I thought this was like Tokyo's backstory some more, like when she was a kid or something.
Oh, okay. You thought the girl was Tokyo?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then she wasn't.
So yeah, this is going to be our police negotiator. And we cut back to the robbers in the mint, and Denver is just absolutely yelling at Tokyo.
Oh yeah, he is giving her the business.
Yeah, and I think Nairobi is going to get loud too. She's upset.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you already broke the most important rule of the entire heist. Don't hurt anybody.
Tokyo seems to be like emotionally going through it. Like she's still dealing with the similarities to her previous circumstance.
Yeah. And Rio tries to defend her and is like, she was just trying to save my life, basically, because he was the one that was really in danger. And that's when she snapped. And then Berlin's going to come in and look ominous looking.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's just going to call the professor on the, do we want to call this the toilet phone?
Yes, the toilet phone.
I wrote toilet wire in my notes. It's not actually like the wire just hooks up to a normal phone.
Yeah. But I like
but
toilet
it's essentially
phone.
the toilet phone. And he's going to tell the professor that 2 officers were injured and that Tokyo fired at them.
I think he also rats her out for hooking up with Rio.
Yes. Now, when he did this, were you a little confused?
No.
You weren't like, oh, how does he know they were hooking up?
Well, I mean, you hook up for like 5 months, and then you go around making those flirty eyes like they did in the last episode. Like somebody's gonna notice.
Okay. Yeah, you think he just picked up on it? We're gonna learn that basically like his room was just right next to Rio.
Yes, so he heard them the entire 5 months.
But he didn't tell anybody on the team about it.
Yeah,
like the professor was not aware of this situation with Rio and Tokyo.
He was probably over there being a creeper and enjoying it. So that's just what I assume.
Tokyo's gonna get on the phone with the professor and deny the relationship.
Yeah, she's just like, why would I care about this young idiot? Like, what? No, that's not even a thing.
Yeah. And the professor can like see them as they're calling him on the phone in the security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor is like, the audience, we can tell that he's upset, but he doesn't actually like yell at her or anything. I don't even know if he says anything. So the professor, I like the contrast between like Denver in this situation
Mm-hmm.
and the professor in this situation, where the professor is like, okay, the situation is clearly not what we intended, but he just wants to know all the facts that he didn't know previously so that he can adjust the plan as needed.
Right. Like he knows that screaming at people's not going to get anything done. He just needs to be able to plan the
Yeah.
next step.
Whereas Denver is like yelling at her for breaking the rules, and it's like, yeah, she knows she broke the rules.
Yeah,
You're not a big sports person, right,
this is
Sarah?
true.
But
Accurate.
my experience with being on athletic teams is like you always have they more often than not default to this Denver personality, which is
Ah,
like you make an error and then it's like they yell at you as if you didn't know that making a mistake was not the right thing to do. No, I mean this is more realistic situation to yell at somebody than in those situations, but I appreciate the professor who's more like the coach, like a good coach in this situation where he's just like, you know what? He doesn't actually say this, but this is how I interpret it. It's like, you know what? It was my fault for putting Tokyo in that situation.
yeah, like honestly, like he knows what happened to her before, right? Like, so 100% he shouldn't have had her on the outside team.
Yeah, I don't know how detailed in terms of like the emotion that she went through that he knows about. He definitely knows about the robbery.
But this is part of the problem with his no personal questions, no personal
I guess
relationships
so,
rules.
yeah.
Like, you need to know about people's things that are going to like trigger them to shoot a bunch of cops.
Yeah, that's true.
Communication is important, even in a heist gang.
That's true, yeah. We didn't talk about it, but the no personal questions, I think this is actually like supposed to protect them against each other, where if like one of them becomes compromised, they can't like
Yes,
rat out the whole crew. And that's obviously that's the point of the names, but even like the
right.
personal information is like they're not supposed to know anything about each other
Yes,
so that they can't help the police identify each other later.
but that does have its drawbacks.
Yeah. The professor, like we gather, is like he's very organized and thought through this plan. But the people that he gets to do this plan,
Are not.
yeah. And we'll get into like the backstories of these people and how they tie in a little bit as far as like why the professor picked them, at least for some of them. But so far, it just seems like a ragtag team of like criminals that have been caught before.
Yeah.
But okay, Raquel, the negotiator, is going to arrive at the Royal Mint, and
Yeah.
she gets like the rundown from the
Mm-hmm.
deputy guy that's there. We find out that 2 officers were shot, I believe, but they're not going to die. They're going to
Yes,
be
they're
they're going to be
just
okay.
injured. So that's not the worst case for the plan. Still not great, but
Yeah, it looked like in the scene where the guns were going, like they might have got shot in the leg when Tokyo fired at them. I'm not sure. We don't go back
they
to these
did like
officers.
fall over. So like from her perspective, it totally could have looked like she straight up murdered them.
So Raquel's going to get the rundown, and she's immediately going to decide. She tells everybody there's like a tent set up outside the Royal Mint where we're going to get a lot of the cop scenes for the
Mm-hmm.
show.
Their base.
Yeah, and she's going to tell everybody like everybody in this tent like turn off your phones. I guess the tech here is like any call that is made in like a certain radius is immediately going to be like picked up by the tent, the police officer in the tent, so they can listen to like any call that happens in the area.
Yeah, so they can't have the cops using the phones and like mucking up the like adding extra noise.
And we're gonna get a scene later where like there's a cop outside the tent who makes a call and they like start freaking out and they're like, oh, listen, listen, listen. And then they find out it's just like one of the other cops and they're like, oh, like, so we get to see kind of like how this is gonna work. Almost instantly, the cops will be able to hear any phone call that happens.
But unfortunately for them, the gang has the toilet phone.
Yes, yeah. And all the phones that they rounded up are all turned off inside.
Yes.
Then we're gonna get a scene with Berlin and Rio, where Berlin's gonna admit that he knew about Tokyo this whole time. And this is
He
another
also
like Berlin creepy scene, right? You
yeah,
want to talk
like he
about it?
tells Rio that he's gonna try to bang Tokyo, and then he explains some very fucked up views he has on women about why you should never have kids with them. And basically he's a horrible person
Yeah.
and he's gross. Don't be like Berlin. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But he's apparently managed to marry and divorce 5 women, and I feel really bad for all 5 of those women.
Yes. Berlin has a good backstory though. once you get to it. But yeah, he's terrible. And Rio has a good question here. he's like, Berlin, why did the professor choose you to be in charge? And then all the Berlin says is, my people skills, which is a funny answer for such a sadistic guy.
Which, I mean, he does have a particular set of a certain kind of people skills.
Yeah.
Maybe not the ones you'd want anywhere else, but they seem to be useful right now.
He is good at like appearing like he's reasonable when he wants to be.
Yeah. But just below the surface is just that mess of horrible opinions and grossness.
Yeah. At some point we're going to get like a clinical profiling of Berlin that like kind of explains his personality, where it's like it's actually like a clinical diagnosed kind of thing.
Okay.
That he has. But then we're gonna get another flashback with Rio in Tokyo. This one in particular I found very unnecessary. This seemed like filler to me. But do you have anything from this? It's like another flashback scene where it's like, oh yeah, Rio and Tokyo were hooking up.
Yeah, literally flashback to Rio and Tokyo hooking up. That's it.
It seemed like serious filler to me, but
yes. They're like, it's been too long since anyone has banged. Let's do a flashback.
Yeah, like there wasn't going to be any sex in this episode or something.
Yes. They have a bare minimum that must be met, god damn it.
We're going to go back to the police tent. And Raquel wants to make contact with the robbers. And she's also upset that there's a man that's also in the tent. And this is Colonel Prieto.
This guy also sucks.
Yes. In a different, he's not Berlin, but.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, there are many ways a person can suck.
But this is like a classic kind of like, they kind of have like a jurisdiction kind of argument.
Mm-hmm.
I think Colonel Prieto is like above Raquel, but he's also part of a different department. So, normal shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
But she's not happy about this guy being here.
Yes.
But they are going to call the robbers.
Yes. And it gets rerouted to the professor.
Yes. So this I love. So like she thinks that she's talking to a robber who is in the mint.
Correct.
But in reality, she's talking to a guy who's not even inside the mint.
Bump, 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 surprise, toilet phone. Because it's not directly on the toilet phone, but you know what I mean.
And we don't know where the professor is. That's a mystery to the audience as well.
That is true.
But the professor is going to be using a voice changer, so his voice is all like metallic-y.
Yes.
So that they can't identify him by that way.
I didn't notice it at first because I was so focused on reading the subtitles that I didn't notice until he apologized for it.
That's true, yeah. But the conversation that Raquel and the professor are going to have is actually like very pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And civilized.
I mean, except for the part where he's like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, why is this in here?
They even had a scene earlier, I think, but maybe before he answered the phone.
Oh, yeah, where he was practicing how he was going to say, what are you wearing?
Yeah, what did you think about that, Sarah?
Well, I was like, this is a weird thing for a man to be saying over and over again by himself in a room. Sure, it'll come up later. And then it did. But yeah, it gave me bad vibes at the time because I'm like, that's not a great, unless you know somebody real well, it's not a good opener.
Yeah. I guess it kind of made sense why he asked her what she's wearing, but I don't think it actually mattered.
Well, he's trying to like get her a little off kilter and like put himself in a like more domineering position, I guess. Like he's asserting his own like power in the situation. It's weird, but it's not as bad as Berlin shit, so okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to kind of disarm her a little bit, I think, more than anything. And it kind of, when we get to the end of this episode, I guess you could argue that it was for the end of the episode a little bit, but I don't think it actually does matter. I think it's more of just a psychological game that he's playing by asking her what she's wearing.
I did like that he actually managed to get all the other people listening in to introduce themselves.
Oh, yeah. Professor's got nothing but time.
Yeah. But he's like, yeah, who else is listening in? What's going on over there? And then like they actually like she points to people and it's like, yeah, go introduce yourself, which is like, I don't know. It's such a weird. I would have been like, don't fucking worry about it. You don't need to talk to these people. You're talking to me.
Yeah. It made sense for the flow of their conversation. I forget like what exactly they said, but it didn't seem so out of nowhere when he said it. So I think he gets introduced to Colonel Prieto. the deputy guy that we saw, and then a couple other random people that I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't even know why they introduced. I feel like he might have like actually heard everybody's name in the tent, but they were like, okay, for the sake of the show, we're not going to show everybody. But yeah, so they oblige him on that, and they introduce everybody, and then she's also going to answer honestly about what she's wearing.
Yes.
And then the professor's actually going to say to Raquel, because she's going to ask him what he wants, and he's going to say what he wants is time, which is like a very honest answer.
Yeah, I did
It's a
not
little
think that
weird.
I thought there would have been some sort of cover story, you know?
Yeah. And do they get into it in this conversation about like at some point he's gonna like maybe this isn't even in this episode, but at some point he's gonna like request like a very specific ship to
Oh, I
be
don't think
like
they did
set
that
up.
yet.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. So he does make requests at some point that aren't just these intangibles,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that's gonna contribute to the delaying and the time that he's trying to get.
Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason he does he actually just like says the word that he's trying to get time here. That was a little weird. But Raquel's gonna request that he release the students because they're all minors. And the professor's like, I'll think about it. And then he like hangs up the phone.
Yep.
So he's just like, I don't know if he's actually gonna think about it, but he's just like, oh, they gave me a reason to hang up the phone and wait for longer. So I'll take it.
Yep.
Just wasting time here. And I think we find out there's 60 hostages. Was that the number?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, between all the workers and students and guards and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's about 60 people. And Raquel's actually going to say, because I don't know if it's Pietro or the deputy guy, but they're going to like, wow, what a lunatic or something when they get off the phone. And Raquel's actually going to kind of defend him and be like, oh, he's not crazy. He
Oh
seems
yeah.
reasonable.
Well, not just that, like he's very like measured in his response. Like he's speaking with purpose. He's not just out of his mind.
Yeah. And this kind of sets up like Raquel very much like doesn't want to use force, but this Colonel
Mm-hmm.
Pietro is like really wants to use force immediately.
Yes.
And they're probably like predisposed to want to do these two strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So like Colonel Pietro is like already like even though he heard the conversation with the professor, like he is almost like just viewed it as like, oh, what a lunatic guy.
Yeah, obviously we can't talk to him. Got to use force.
I guess
Yeah.
like acting what are you wearing was a little like weird, but other than that, it was
Yeah.
just like a guy talking, two people talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Colonel Pietro is gonna insist that they use force, but Raquel does not want to do that. And then I think this is the only view we get into Raquel's situation with her ex-husband.
Yeah. And this is why I say that this colonel is a dick. Because like he brings up that she has a domestic violence charge filed against her ex-husband. And he's like throwing that in her face when he's trying to argue about why they like she won't get her way with the scene. And it's a dick move. You just don't do that to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no good. Can I give you like the full backstory
Sure.
of Raquel? I think it only
Go
takes a
for it.
few
I'm ready.
episodes. So, because it's actually like way more fucked up than you would
Oh,
think it would
so
be.
then it's even worse that this dipshit guy brings it
Well,
up.
he doesn't
Okay.
know all these. So actually, well, it actually kind of contributes to why this guy might think the way he does.
Okay.
But basically, so Raquel's relationship with his ex-husband was kind of like the cliche domestic
Mm-hmm.
abuse kind of thing where at first he's just like kind of bossing her around or like telling her what to wear and stuff and then
Oh yeah.
but
It
then
progresses.
eventually
Yeah.
it
Okay.
progresses and then it becomes violent and then she divorces him but he the ex-husband actually works within the police department
Yeah.
so she doesn't press charges and I think
Oh.
later we're going to find out that I think he's like the lead forensics guy
Okay.
so he's going to come into play later
Oh.
but so she actually didn't press charges because like she didn't want to make things weird at work and she was just satisfied to like get out of the relationship.
Is it that she doesn't want to make things weird at work, or that she's sure that like she won't get anywhere because like cops be helping cops and bullshit like that?
Maybe. I forget the exact wording she used when she explains it.
Okay.
But then on top of that, what happens is like it might only be like a month later after the divorce that the ex-husband starts going out with her sister.
Oh.
And because he's going out with her sister is when Raquel decides in order to like because she's worried
Save
about
her
her
sister.
sister, she decides to go ahead and make the charges which are actually like a month late now.
Mm. But then everybody thinks she's just like trying to get revenge for him getting with her sister.
Exactly. Exactly. Like it's like a jealousy thing.
That's some bullshit.
Yeah, not a good situation. So but that gives you a little bit as to like
Why he's so ready to throw that in her face. Yeah, yeah. I will continue to not like this guy.
yeah. There's no reason to like this guy, but it at least shows like, okay, this is why Raquel is not getting much support from the police
Mm-hmm.
department because it's like everybody else in the police department also knows the ex-husband, and there's this
Yeah. Okay.
relationship complication behind it.
That makes sense.
But okay, cut back into the Mint, and we're gonna get like a little bit of a weird scene with Rio has like taken Allison Parker to like a private room for her to change.
He's been put in charge of her, I think, earlier when Berlin was being creepy at him. He also like tasked him with taking charge of this teenager who recently got a boyfriend and I hope does not have a boyfriend anymore.
Oh, Berlin actually told him to do this? Okay.
Yes.
Because also a little bit of a weird part where like before he turns off Allison Parker's phone in the one room with the phones,
Does he see the picture?
he doesn't see the the naked picture, but I think he just sees like the background picture of her, and he has
Oh.
like a little bit of like a look in his face. I don't know. It was weird.
They are probably in closer in age range than other people in the because she's what like 17 probably and he's like 22. It's not okay, but you know.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of does it happen in this episode where like Tokyo kind of like sees him like looking at this girl?
Mm,
Does that happen in this first two
I
episodes?
think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This Rio and Allison Parker thing is weird to me.
It should be.
Yeah, there's some weird scenes with these two.
But he does turn around when she has to change into her red jumpsuit. So basic human decency.
Yeah. And then he sees her in a mirror while she's changing and
Less
like walks
basic
away.
human.
No,
Okay,
like
sorry.
he didn't intentionally mean for there to meet like a mirror perfectly lined up when he turned
Mm-hmm.
around, but then when he saw it, he like moved away.
Yeah.
So Rio seems like not as committed as everybody else to being a terrible person. And
Yeah.
we get his backstory later to explain that. But yeah, and then we get a fun little scene, I guess, here where they actually flash back to the house again, the country house,
Mm-hmm.
and all of them are going to be like eating lunch together and just like talking about like what are you going to do with the money and stuff like that.
Yes. There's a lot of I'm gonna buy an island or I'm gonna buy a plane, gotta pay off a lot of debts.
Yeah, I get not a super important scene, I guess. It just kind of showed that there was like socialization between as a group.
Yeah. They do and seem to be like enjoying their time together.
Yeah. A little bit of like team building, I guess, but not that these people are going to be a great team because of it. I don't know. I don't know what the point of the scene was, actually.
Well, I think part of it is also the professor then like at the end is like you're going to do all those things and you're still going to have money left. Like he's bragging the whole time about how this is going to be so much money.
Yeah, some people are like deciding what they want to do with the money, but like professor's like, you haven't even like spent any of the money, but you could do that. You could do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're wishing for and still have so much money left. Like you need to dream bigger.
What's your big dream? You do a giant heist. What are you going to spend your money on?
Oh, I thought about that question, or I thought about
Yeah.
asking you that question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't have anything like that where I would spend a bunch of money on something.
2 words. Puzzle house.
Puzzle house.
I
Okay.
would get an
Escape
architect to
room.
design me a house where I have to solve a series of puzzles to unlock all the different cool rooms. And it's not like a giant escape room because I want to open up more things inside, but just like I want my house to be a weird puzzle I must solve.
Is it like really hard puzzles that you'd have to solve over the course of your life?
Yes. Or, I mean, it could just be a series of puzzle houses like, oh, I solved this one, make me a harder one. I don't
Okay.
know. But like to open up secret passageways between places or ooh, here's a room I never knew I had or, just cool stuff.
Would you monetize the houses after you solve them and let other people try to do them?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I would need some sort of I should be able to reset the house and then be like, okay, I guess other people can buy this puzzle house or whatever. Or it could just be a like
Yeah, it's an escape room house.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
if
Could
they
be
were
a
hard enough, if it was too hard, you wouldn't be able to do it in like a couple hours per team or whatever.
well, it
So
could
it's a
be
little different.
like a puzzle B&B or a puzzle Airbnb. There we go. Put it on Airbnb. Spend a week in the puzzle house. See how far you can get.
Okay.
Please don't die in my puzzle house.
Okay. Sounds super creepy, honestly, but
Yeah, you'd think I wouldn't like this given that I have a deep down fear of anywhere I live that there's somebody secretly living in my attic or my house somewhere. Like this would feed into that fear, but I think the coolness would overwhelm that.
okay. Well, that's pretty ambitious.
But I have no intention of joining a heist, so the puzzle house will remain just a dream.
Hmm. I literally have like nothing just to say. I don't know if I would do anything really different in my life. I don't know. Maybe get a fancier house, but not
Yeah.
not a puzzle house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that's not most people's go-to.
But yeah, so yeah, back to the Mint. And
Yes.
Berlin is actually gonna let all the hostages take their masks off.
Yes. And all the gang has their masks off, so we're like okay with seeing each other now.
Yeah. And now this actually, I don't know how much they talk about this, but like once they do this, it really compromises the like hostage negotiations a little bit. Where like to me, the professor is going to get into like hostage negotiations, but to me, it's like he's never going to let any of these hostages go because
Right.
they've
They've
all
seen
seen
their
their
faces.
faces now. Yeah, yeah. So it seemed like okay, he could negotiate and waste time with hostages, but now I feel like he can't because they've done this.
Yeah.
But what they're going to do is they're going to make all the hostages change into what the robbers are wearing.
Yeah, so everybody's wearing matching red jumpsuits like they're in a big old cult.
Yes, and they all have dolly masks as well.
Yes.
And then there's going to be an interaction between Denver and Arturo, where
Mhm.
Denver is going to basically hand Arturo a gun and then
Tell him to shoot him.
psych him out and be like, oh, you don't have the guts to shoot me, even if I give you a gun. And
Yeah.
then they get into like a standoff.
Where he draws a gun on Arturo.
And then he like does a countdown to like threaten Arturo that like, oh, he's gonna shoot him if Denver's gonna shoot Arturo if he doesn't shoot first. And then like right at the end of the countdown, Arturo actually like pulls the trigger on Denver, but the gun that Denver gave to Arturo was a fake gun.
Yep.
So this was another like I don't know of how much this was planned, to do this exact interaction, but
Mm.
he did this in front of all the hostages to just kind of again like it's like a theatrical demonstration to show the hostages that they're all about to get guns but they're going to be fake.
Yes.
But I didn't mind it so much because it was Arturo.
Yep. Arturo has singled himself out as the person for them to be terrible to. So
Yeah,
that's what
it's kind of
happened.
messed up actually, but
Yeah.
Arturo is like I get the argument for Arturo is like the way that they have treated him does kind of give him reason to believe that he is going to be killed no matter what. I guess is
Yes.
the idea.
That is true.
But for whatever reason, his actions still bother me later. So yeah. Now all the hostages look like the robbers, even and they even have fake guns, so they look identical. And then we cut back outside, and all the like a bunch of like additional police forces are like showing up at the MIT, and Raquel did not order them there, so she's like, "What's going on?"
Colonel has done it behind her back.
Yeah, but then so she's gonna confront Pietro, and then Pietro's gonna explain that there's actually a high priority person who's one of the hostages in the Mint, which Raquel was not aware of.
Yes. And they have to get her out soon because if they don't, like they have not gone public with this information about this hostage situation. And if she is still in there, like it's gonna like break by morning or whatever. So that's part of their concern.
Yeah, basically Pietro doesn't want the situation to turn into like an international crisis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because right now it's just kind of like a Spanish story or
Yeah.
a story confined to Spain news, but he doesn't want it to go global because the high priority person in the Mint is Allison Parker, the little
Dun
lamb.
dun dun. The teenager who got a boyfriend and hopefully no longer has a boyfriend.
Yeah. So they actually flash back again to the professor in the classroom with everybody, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to explain again. They're explaining the plan, why everything's been going on the way it has.
Yep.
And he pulls out a picture of Allison Parker and refers to her as the little lamb. in his explanation. And he reveals that Allison Parker is actually the daughter of the UK ambassador.
Yeah. Ooh, so that does make it like they live in Spain. They're not on a field trip from Britain then.
Yeah. And the professor even explains that, like, the police are going to think that we don't know who Allison Parker is.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they're going to try to enter the mint on the first night. The police are, while it's still dark out. And basically, the professor is going to go on to, like, basically predict exactly what the police are going to do throughout this
Yes.
episode. What the professor wants to happen is he knows that their best chance of winning a battle is if the police, like, jump the gun too quickly, I guess is the
Mm-hmm.
idea. So he wanted Allison Parker to be in the mint when they did this so that they would try to enter the mint prematurely. And even after all this explanation from Pietro, Raquel does not like this plan.
Yes.
And she's kind of feeling like undermined by the whole situation.
Which is an accurate way to feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, Pietro is doing like anything terrible in terms of like his duty or whatever at this point, but we're getting the story mostly from Raquel's perspective, so we're supposed to sympathize with her.
Yeah, but also like if you have somebody who is the negotiator for this situation, they should probably know what's going on and not be surprised when suddenly there's a bunch of bros that have shown up.
Yeah. I don't know why she wouldn't be allowed to know about Allison Parker. The idea is that Pietro is some sort of like intelligence agency, so he has like
Mm.
higher secret intelligence permissions than
Clearance
Raquel
level.
does. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so they're preparing for to enter the mint. We go back in though, and Arturo is like arguing with Monica. They're supposed to be like sitting quietly on the ground, but Arturo's
Yes.
like he's he's having an argument with Monica about I think it's the pregnancy. Is that what's
Probably yes.
going on
Yes.
here?
It's, yep.
I forget what they were arguing about, but like very quickly, this is like the only Nairobi moment, or like the first Nairobi moment we get in the first two episodes. She just like looks at them talking and then sits down next to Monica and just basically has picked up on the entire situation. Like
Yep.
she basically tells, even though Monica doesn't really want to talk to her, she basically just like says exactly what's going on between Monica and Arturo.
Yep.
So Nairobi's pretty smart.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem like a total lost cause.
Yes.
I
Definitely.
like Nairobi. She's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. She's good.
Oh, and we find out that Monica has decided to abort the baby.
Do, do, do.
There's a lot of serious issues in this show, Sarah.
Yes. Yes, there are.
Abortion, domestic violence. There's going to be a lot of love triangles in this show.
Love triangles aren't always that serious, though. Maybe here they are.
Yeah, these are more like dramatic love triangles than they are cutesy love triangles. But yeah, police forces are going to start to move in on the mint. And as soon as they're like, all right, we're going in, Professor hears it and he just notifies Berlin, oh, they're coming in. And he's like, I think he's basically like, time to execute the plan. So they like have a plan for this already. Everything the police do, they have a plan for. And Berlin, they imply that Berlin has like been talking to the hostages this whole time and has like been telling them what they're gonna have to do in a little bit. And after he gets the call from the professor, he says to the hostages, "Okay, it's time." And then I think we get another flashback of the professor just like predicting exactly what's about to happen
because he knows everything.
Yeah, he even like has thought about all the different access points to the mint and has factored in all like normal police protocols. Basically, he's like very
they're gonna come in from the roof and from the front and from over here.
He could be like a lawyer, the professor or something. We don't know who he is, but he's very like he's studied law and police codes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he basically knows that like the entry point that they're going to use is the loading dock. Like he explains this and they're what they're about to do. And so the first team of like cops goes to the loading dock and they just like drill a hole in the door so that they can put a camera in.
Yep, a little teeny camera.
And as soon as they put the camera in and they look in it, they just see like a ton of people wearing red jumpsuits and dolly masks, like way more than there are robbers in the situation.
Yes.
So the police are able to realize like, okay, some of these have to be hostages. Yeah.
But we can't tell who.
And then also the person in front has like a mounted gun
Oh yeah, it's a big, intense
They
gun.
call it a mounted Browning machine gun, is what they call it.
Mm.
Also, while this is going on, they set up a phone call from the Mint to like the media, I guess, or like directly to
Yeah, it's
like
like
a
either a
TV
radio
station.
show or a news show or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And they put Allison Parker on the phone and had her read a message, basically like imploring the police to not come in because of how dangerous the robbers are. And
Yes.
also, it's letting the outside world know that Allison Parker is in the Mint.
Yes.
So it's basically ruining Pietro's whole idea of not turning this into an international incident. So
Right.
the professor is using Allison exactly in the way that the cops do not want it to be
Yes.
used. Yeah. So between this message that's going out to the media that they're hearing on the news as they're like putting the camera in the door and all this, and they see what's behind the door, they decide to retreat
Yep.
and not go through with the plan. So that's night one of the heist.
Just a little intense.
The first like, okay, we can breathe a little bit. Like we
Mm-hmm.
deterred the police for the night. They're not going to come in immediately anymore.
Yes. They no longer need to be in a rush the way they previously had.
Yeah. The police retreat, but Raquel has had enough, and she actually like storms off out of the tent as if, she's saying, I'm not doing this I'm not going to be in charge of the situation anymore
Yeah.
because this is like nobody's listening to me, and this is what happens
Mm-hmm.
when nobody listens to me, kind of thing.
Totally justified.
Yes, yes. And now we cut back in, and this is where the heist can really begin, Sarah.
Yes.
Nairobi is very happy. She has a big smile on her face,
Yep.
and she's walking through all the hostages, and she starts calling out people, list of names, who I guess these list of names are like people who actually work on printing the money in the mint.
Yes.
They're qualified workers.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically gonna round them all up, and they're gonna start printing money.
Yep. And she's like 24/7. We're just gonna keep printing. Like every 3 hours, we readjust for, any issues, but you just keep printing.
And she's so happy. She's like, it sounds like I'm in the club. Ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. She's like
Yeah, she's having a
dancing.
great
She's
time.
dancing to like the sound of money being printed. And this is when it kind of, okay, this makes sense. They're not stealing from anybody,
They're making their
right?
own money.
They're printing their own money.
Yeah.
Which to me, they get into like a deeper conversation at some point about like how the efficacy of this.
Mm-hmm.
And Professor mentions like, oh, like in this year, like the Spanish government printed, this amount of millions of euros and overnight paid for a bunch of things basically. And he basically is saying like, how is that any different than what we're doing, kind of thing.
You got to figure you print that much money and put it back into circulation, like by spending it on stuff, and like that's got to affect inflation somehow, right? Like
I
it
guess
devalues everybody else's money, so essentially they're fucking over everybody instead of no one.
like maybe, I don't know, since it's only going to like a handful of people, and I don't know, like, are they going to be making like crazy purchases that are going to
Yes.
deeply impact the economy? I don't know. I feel like there's
Yeah.
some like actual legitimacy to what the professor's saying, where he talks about like, we call this money, but it's really just paper, you know?
Mm.
So it's
Yeah, I
it's a
don't
bit
know.
of an interesting thought to think
Hmm.
about when it comes up in the show.
I do not have an economics degree, so I cannot give a concrete
Yeah,
opinion on how this will affect things.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely illegal
Oh, well, yes,
and not
yes.
fair, but in terms of like,
A victimless
because
crime.
he's gonna make an argument of why, because remember he talked about like the goal is to get the public on our side,
Hmm.
and he's gonna have a couple tricks up his sleeve to like make that happen along the way.
Kind of throwing money at the people.
Yeah. But the idea that like nobody to the public, like stealing money, printing money in the mint isn't actually taking money out of anybody's wallets directly.
Hmm.
So there's no reason for the public to be like up in arms about it, if
Yeah.
nobody's getting hurt really. So yeah, we're printing money. Nairobi is happy. But we have one more scene before the end of this episode.
Yes.
Because Raquel, since she stormed out of the tent, she's going to go to the diner. And she wants to make some phone calls.
But her phone is dead.
And she asks, like, the diner guy, oh, do you have a phone? Oh, phone
Or
charger?
a charger.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, no, I don't. And then in the background, behind Raquel's shoulder, you see a man turn around in his chair.
And it's the professor.
And it comes into focus, and it's the professor sitting right next to Raquel.
And he lets her use his phone.
Yes.
Make some calls. This was the one scene where I'm like, okay, everything up to this point, like he's studied things and he's making logical predictions on stuff. There is no reason for him to assume she's going to end up in this diner at this time and need a phone. Like, this is a little too Professor magically knows everything.
I don't think the phone thing, like, he didn't need the phone to, like, introduce himself to her or whatever.
So he's not getting information based on her using his phone. He's just trying to introduce himself to her. Is that what's happening here?
There are shenanigans that happen because Raquel uses his phone, but I don't think it was like part of the plan necessarily. It was just like a thing that happened.
It just still seems a little sus that he's already there when she gets there. And I don't know how he magically knows this.
Basically, we get like this dramatic music of him like turning around, and we get to see that the professor is with Raquel. And then that's the end of episode 2. Great cliffhanger. Now, at the beginning of the next episode, what I would say is what happens is like the way he kind of brings up talking about the heist with her is that he just sees her on TV, like in the diner. And it's like, oh, that's you, you know? So like he could have come up with whatever reason to talk to her. The phone thing wasn't important.
But the fact that he knew where she was and was already there.
I think this diner is a popular spot for her to go.
Okay.
So he knows that. Now, did he know she was going to be there exactly at that time? Maybe not. He might just go to the diner periodically and hope that she comes because he knows eventually. But you know, I'm sure he's resourceful enough to figure out some way to bump into her.
Okay.
At some point, but this is how the show shows to show it. When he asked her what she's wearing, you could say that he asked her what she's wearing so that like he could pick her out in the diner, I guess.
But if he knew enough about her, what she does, to know that she'll be at this diner, he should not need that.
Yeah, I think he has already profiled her and knows what she looks like. So I don't think the asking her what she's wearing was meaningful to this scene.
It was just a weird power play.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the end of episode 2, Sarah. Do you like that cliffhanger? I thought that was a better cliffhanger to end the recap on than episode 1.
Well, it just bothered me because it seemed a little too like, okay, now he knows too many things that he magically found the place where she was going to be. But
I didn't get hung up on that. I don't think I think it was realistic that he could run into her if he wanted to. But this is a big the interaction between the professor and Raquel going forward in the show is like the big twist, I would say, on the usual version of robbers and bank robbers. So this, like them meeting each other outside of the mint and outside of work, essentially, is going to be like a big intrigue in the show.
Okay, interesting.
So this isn't just like a one interaction. This is they're going to meet at this diner several times and run into each other.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought it was I remember this being like a big like oh snap moment when he was at the diner, and I don't know how in I was, but after this I was like, oh my god, I have to watch next episode.
But yeah, I am in on this show. I really enjoy it.
All right.
Yeah.
We did it. Is this the first time?
Is it the first time?
I think it is. I mean, unless you want to count Miss Marvel, but I kind of brought that to the podcast, but it was more of like a timing thing with the show being released.
Yeah.
But this is only like the third time where we've taken a not current show.
Yes.
And one of us brought it to the table. The other one watched it first time. And actually, now I watched the American version of the show that you suggested, but I did not continue watching the actual show that you had me watch.
Yeah, I guess this is the first time.
All right, let's go. Yeah, so you're in. I like it.
Yeah, I'm in.
You have to give us updates.
I don't know the speed with which I will consume it because there was always a barrier of entry of, okay, I'm watching this with subtitles. I must focus and pay attention. So like can't watch it while I'm doing something else. So that those kind of shows do take longer for me to get through, but I will be continuing with this at a certain pace.
I got into this show when they were releasing season 5. So
Okay.
I think the whole show was out. They released season 5 in like two 5-episode volumes. So I forget if I might have had to wait for the last 5 episodes like a week. I forget how long, but I did blast through the show pretty quickly. I got hooked on it.
And you said what, the first 2 seasons or 3 seasons are one thing, and then the other 3 or 2 are a different thing?
Yeah, so it makes sense with after I read up on how Netflix kind of went about getting this show.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever it originally aired, it was the first 2 seasons, and it does kind of have a conclusion, I would say,
Okay.
to the heist after the first 2 seasons. But Netflix greenlit additional seasons, and they bring back like most of the characters, and there's essentially like another heist that needs to
Okay.
get done. And they tie it together. It's not like totally independent. It's
Mm.
a they make it very flowing. Like there's a reason they have to do another heist and whatnot.
Not just because they either failed to get as much money as they needed or spent all their money right away.
Hey, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil how the
Okay.
first heist ends.
Fair enough.
But yeah, you could watch like the first 2 seasons of the show and kind of have a conclusion. But yeah, you good on Money Heist? Would you highly recommend
Yeah.
to people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, only saw 2 episodes, but yeah, so far real good. Intriguing. I'm excited to see how all the weird relationships develop, you know?
I think it only gets better. Like everything here is just the tip of the iceberg on everything. So
Mm.
it is a little like soap opera-y, I guess sometimes with like kind of the like ridiculous of like how all these relationships, these people are like intertwined.
Oh, okay.
I guess I say that only because like there are love triangles, but they're like dramatic love triangles instead of fun love triangles. So
Okay.
that's how I don't really watch soap operas, but that's how I imagine
Mm.
soap operas to be, where it's like
Sure.
out of nowhere, it's like, oh, these two people, or like this person has had feelings for this person the whole time, like something like that.
When I think of soap operas, I think of like, oh, suddenly someone's evil twin has come back, or this person was in a coma, and yeah.
Yeah, that's like the really extreme stuff. But even just like, Raquel's being in a domestic abuse situation, but then her ex-husband hooks up with her sister is like, that's a little soap
Mm.
opera to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's kind of ridiculous, all the weird situations and relationships that occur within this show
Yeah.
alone,
Yeah.
Uh, but it's fun.
Nice. I'm looking forward to the rest of this.
Okay, what have you chosen for our next episode, Sarah?
Get
It's
to pick
your
a
time.
second show.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh. Well, given what I know about who our audience is right now, there's a certain segment that I think will really enjoy this particular show if they haven't already seen it. And it's called Gallivant.
Gallivant.
It is a like medieval times musical comedy. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. Sounds like a different pace
Oh
than what
yeah,
we just
yeah.
watched.
It is an abrupt change from Money Heist. Yes.
Where are we watching this?
I believe it is on Hulu.
Hulu.
Yeah. There are 2 seasons. I think probably 2 episodes will do. Yeah. So get ready for a musical.
All right, I'm intrigued. Is this like a constant musical?
No. There are musical numbers
Okay, gotcha.
occasionally. It is a fun time. I had found it after it had finished its whole airing, and I was sad there was no more. It's a good show.
Gotcha. Looks like 2 seasons. Season 1 is 8 episodes. Season 2 is 10 episodes. So pretty
Yep.
quick.
Weird Al is in an episode of season 2, which is fun.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. Not something I would normally pick. So
Yeah, I
it'll be
no
interesting.
idea if you're gonna like this or not,
If it's supposed to be funny, I'll probably like it.
but I do know some people who listen to this who probably will like it if they haven't already seen it.
Cool. Okay. Sarah, where can people contact us if they want to get in touch on anything about the show? Any
Yeah,
comments? What
if you
what
have
can they do?
any comments or feelings or suggestions or or anything at all. We're still looking for if anybody has any recommendations for how we might talk about movies. We would love to hear from you.
For the movies thing, I think we'll probably have a couple weeks before my next pick with some other things coming up that we can get into in the next episode, but I might just be picking a movie.
Movies are on the horizon, so if you have feelings,
I
let
might
us
just be
know.
picking a movie at some point, and we're going to try whatever I come up with for it,
Okay.
and we'll see if it sticks.
Yeah, but if you have thoughts or feelings about that, you can email us at keepwatchingpod@gmail. That's keepwatchingpod. You can tweet at us at keepwatchingpod, Instagram at keepwatchingpod, or you can leave a comment on YouTube, which is also keepwatchingpod. And if you're enjoying this podcast situation and you're feeling charitable today, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and also Spotify has ratings as well. So that'll help people find the show, and that'll make us happy. So yeah,
We're already happy, but
yeah, but
doesn't
just
hurt.
like a little extra happy, you know.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.